Well, it's all happening. It just looks like the teams who were expected to put the runs on the board, expected to perform. Virat Kohli said they were more than happy to bat first, and just have a look. Under par, well under par, but we won't judge anything until the second 20 overs have been bowled. However, in terms of what the scores are, let's just confirm what it is at the end of the innings. Remember, this is Sharjah. This is where the tournament started with more than 2-1-0 types rather than 1-2-0. The digits have been rearranged in 20 overs. Josh Philippe was good at the top, but sort of ran out of steam as he batted with AB de Villiers. Finally was done in by Rashid Khan. Washington Sundar towards the end provided just something for them to breathe. But I think the talk of the day for as far as the bowling is concerned, Sandeep Sharma, number 7 for Virat Kohli, and Jason Holder, who's been such a great asset ever since he's come into this team. Joy Bhattacharjya, Shaun Pollock. I know, Shaun, we were talking before the show started and you said, well, it doesn't look like a pitch where you're going to score a whole lot of runs, but is it a 120, sub-120 pitch?
No, definitely not. I mean, we made our predictions, but once you saw the first few overs, a couple of balls stayed low. It looked like it had lacked in pace. And then Jason Holder got one to stand up quite steeply. So it was obviously a surface which was just gripping a bit. I don't think they adjusted their mindset enough to what a competitive total would have been if they had just realigned things and said, listen, if we get to 150, we're really in with a shot. But when you lose those early wickets up front and you put under pressure as a batting unit, sometimes, particularly when the spinners come on, it wasn't as clear as it could be. So they will be disappointed. I don't think 120 will be enough. But in saying that, we did see the Sunrisers have a little 125 or something chase, which they couldn't get over the line. And that might just be sitting somewhere on their shoulders.
Especially because, Joy, it probably was another Saturday night fiasco for them. It was a small run chase and they fell short. It was in Dubai, different ground. But yeah, it's just one of those totals that you ask yourself when you're putting on the pads that, can we just get it easily? Or is there something? Is there a reason why they're 120?
No, I think David Warner will say, this game I want to finish myself. He's going to go early. He's going to go hard. He's not going to say it's 120 and I can go easy. They'll try and, if the ball is stopping and coming, they'll try and maximize the hard ball as fast as possible. I think the one thing that stood out for me, which really bothered me about the way RCB batted, was the number of dot balls they gave away in the beginning. 17 dot balls in the power play. 17 is a lot of dot balls because they were not hitting fours as well. Dot balls are okay if you're hitting 2, 3 fours are over. They just didn't get the fours. They didn't get, and they got a whole lot of dot balls. And what happened was basically the amount of pressure. I mean, Josh Philippe looks as the highest scorer, but because he got himself under dot ball pressure, Padikkal had to take chances, and that's what led to Padikkal. And I think that's one of the problems they've had. They've just allowed themselves to, have such a situation that every time a player gets bogged down, the guy on the other end has to take a risk, and he's getting out. And that's exactly what happened. It was, as I said, the pitch is not a greatest pitch to bat on, but RCB has a lot to blame in their own fiasco today.
There's something Joy knew about Padikkal that we didn't, but at the end, call it law of averages, call it what you like. He played a very un-Padikkal-like shot when he actually got out. He was looking good first couple of deliveries. Swipe across the line. I mean, never mind the fact that you didn't score runs. He played an uncharacteristic shot, and there were a few of those in the innings.
Yeah, he did. I think also what you need to understand is that there's always pressure in these tournaments, and at the top of the order, you've got two relatively inexperienced campaigners. Someone like a Finch, if he's there, you sit and you go, after 2 overs, you go, listen, it's not easy to hit out here. Let's maybe think of a different game plan. We have to run well between the wickets, or we have to target different areas. When you've got two young guys, Philippe, he's trying to make a name for himself. I mean, he's probably never played on a surface like that at all in his career. So, he's going to battle to come up with a new strategy or a new game plan. Padikkal also under the pressure of this tournament, maybe not thinking as clearly as he can. So that is always your challenge. That's why it's so nice to have those experienced campaigners, the ones that continue to produce, have been onto all the different conditions in their career, and know how to adjust game plans. I mean, by the end of my career, I know what I must do on slower surfaces, quicker surfaces, seaming surfaces, flat surfaces. I've got my plans in place. Sometimes in their careers at this early age, these guys haven't quite worked out what has to be done. And that's what ends up building pressure.
Now, when you said Shaun, you were presumably not talking about the royal I or the royal we. You were referring to yourself and how you would have made, pretty much contained on such surfaces. You have a record that proves it.
No, but I'm just saying, it's just because by the end of your career, you've been to Sri Lanka, India, Pakistan,
Don't
UAE,
avoid the
Australia.
question, Shaun. We're trying to praise you here.
No, I'm not looking for that. I'm just saying you get to work out what's required on the different pitches.
Maybe I'll ask Joy about this. Shaun's not going to admit it. I mean, he was one of the best in the business, and then we've had a number doing the rounds on WhatsApp and Twitter, I believe, as well.
No, absolutely. I mean, he is one of the, in terms of economy rates, he's one of the top 3 bowlers in the history of the IPL. And that's something. I think it's 6.22. And Shaun is making all these gestures, but the fact of the matter is,
move on.
He was just such an amazing bowler. And, by that time, remember, IPL is not very early in his career. It's towards the end of his career. He was just so smart. He used to, the way he played the game was absolutely outstanding. And what Shaun did for MI in seasons where MI was struggling was absolutely superb.
The only reason you remember that is because there was 2 good games against KKR.
I remember both those games very clearly, very clearly.
And it only took one of our very adept fellow Cricbuzz livers in Simon Dool to say maybe the batsmen didn't go hard at the bowlers in those days, but we know that the record
Probably
speaks
the
for
case.
itself. No,
Probably
Shaun,
the case.
you're not getting away with that one. We're on your side in this one, but a quick one to finish on the stalwarts there. Joy, just the other day, we remember it was a bit of a difficult surface, Kohli and de Villiers batting together, and we saw a very un-Kohli and de Villiers-like partnership that was actually needed. Today, they probably needed something like that. Even a 40 or 50 balls from Kohli would have been much more valuable.
Yeah, look, the truth of it is Kohli got out hitting a shot that 9 times out of 10 he creams. It was great field placing, having that shot I mean, they've obviously made their plans well. That short cover was meant for that shot, and the plans work. Very often they don't. 9 times out of 10 they would have crashed into the boundary. De Villiers played well, so smart, picked up the ball, took his time. Actually, they got out. It happens once in a while. I was even more frustrated when the way Udana swung and Morris swung, because the fact of the matter is that international players have that bit more of calmness. Washington Sundar, even Gurkeerat Maan are comparatively kids. And I would have just liked them to bat a bit longer. They would have reached 130, 135. Now, I'm not saying that's a winning total. But today, 135 on this pitch with a must-win game for SRH is not a bad total. It's not a bad total at all. It's better than 120 at any rate.
Certainly is. Let's talk about the bowling, Shaun, for a moment. We saw in the previous game there was just not enough once Delhi finished their batting, even though they've got such a good attack with the likes of Rabada and Nokia and company. Now, this is what SRH have done. Sandeep Sharma 2 for 20, one of those 2 wickets being Virat Kohli for the 7th time, 2 for 27 holder. And look at Natarajan. We didn't talk much about him. He had 1 over for 1, and then he came back 4 overs, 1 for 11.
And he should have got another one. There was a drop catch of him as well that ended up going to the boundary. 16 dot balls. Have a look how good that is. But that's why I think this bowling attack, you go down all those names. Sandeep Sharma, he's coming late into the equation. He had to do what Bhuvi did for them. Jason Holder wasn't in the initial team. Natarajan, he's picked up a great idea of what his game plan should be, and he's grown in strength. Rashid Khan is obviously the rock star in that bowling attack, and then Nadeem's done a good job today. So they've learned on the job, which is sometimes very difficult to do. And when you're setting up a team, ideally what you want is international bowlers who know what they're supposed to do. But that's where I think Sunrise have been really good. Is the guys have learned the roles. They've come into their own as the tournament's gone on, and they seem to be getting better and better. So that's good signs for them if they do manage to get through and make the playoffs.
And sometimes scorecards don't reflect how a build-up happened. It was Shabaz Nadeem who finally got rid of AB de Villiers, but 4 deliveries in a row for Rashid Khan to bowl to de Villiers outside the off-stump, couldn't even get bat on ball. I mean, those are the parts that you really don't see on a scorecard.
Absolutely. Pressure at one end gives you wickets at the other. Dot balls at one end gives you stupid shots, forced shots at the other. And I think I just love the way Natarajan has played, because he was, everyone knew he could bowl Yorkers, but he did it to a T. What he did, and remember, it was important that once they got again, like Mumbai, they didn't let their foot off the pedal. They stayed there, they stayed in control, and they finished the game. They could have easily gone for about 20, 25, 30 in the end. And we've seen this so often in the IPL. One batsman gets in and hits 3 fours in the end, and that 120, 125 suddenly becomes 135. They didn't allow that to happen. And I think full credit to Hyderabad for just keeping themselves there, staying in the game and just making sure the job was done. And again, I know Trevor Bayliss. I'm a big fan of his from his KKR days. Trevor, Brad, Murli, you take VVS Lakshman. This is a very well coached and a very calm strategy unit. I think they may not win this IPL, they may not even qualify, but they'll surely get the best out of their players.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been every playoff since 2016, have the men in orange. But just to finish off on the possible bowling, it's been a strange Saturday. We've seen 110, 120, 230 is the kind of score you'd expect in one innings in Sharjah. We've had it in 2 innings in 2 different games, batting first. Shaun, in terms of the bowling, do they even have the credentials to look around there? Does Virat Kohli have the armory other than Yuzvendra Chahal to say, who's going to get me those wickets? Because you have to bowl the opposition out.
Yeah, you do. And I think he needs to be really smart in the first 6 overs. He knows the strategy. David Warner's changed his game plan. He's now opening up his foot like he did for many years, and he's trying to come harder at the bowling attack. So I would think you don't want to give too much pace. Maybe Morris to have 1 up front. I'm sure Sundar should bowl 2 or overs in the first 6 overs. And I actually might be tempted to go to O'Donnell because he's got a little bit of control, not quite as quick as the others. We saw in the last game when Siraj and Sani came on, it offered up too much pace on the slow surface. So I would try and use them very tactically and at the right stages. But once those first 6 overs is done, that's when Chahal needs to come in and he needs to do what Rashid Khan does, build the pressure, pick up the wickets to give them any sort of chance. But I think the big wicket is going to be obviously David Warner up front, and get your best options onto him. So who's going to create most problem? I think Sundar and maybe Morris for 1, and then Udana, I think, could be the option.
Yeah. 3 bowlers and then Yuzvendra Chahal to try and do what he does best. Joy, how do you reckon the Sunrisers are going to come in the first 6 overs? Because it's not just an opinion, it's something that will matter. My 11 circle badge of honor is up for grabs.
I did well with 41. I'll go with 42 this time.
Oh dear. Summer of 42, says Joy Bhattacharjya. I did well with 38. Should I go for 38 again? Why not? I'm going to go 38 again. They would not go too hard. Just try and negotiate things and win the game. So 38 it is. Shaun, Pollock, are you going 66?
No, I'm going 49. Saha's going to sweep the spinners and Warner's going to pop the other guys over the top. 49.
So it's conservative thinking. 38, 49 and 42 from Joy Bhattacharjya. That's where we are. It's Chris Morris opening up. No Washington Sundar yet. Probably 1 for Morris, and then we'll see a bit of change of pace. It's all going to be up to the tactics of Kohli and the power of David Warner. What's going to happen? Is it going to be the cue for Bangalore, or is it going to be the Orange Army keeping their hopes alive? 10th over, Cricbuzz Combox. And of course, a lot more to look forward to as we wrap up Super Saturday on My 11 Circle presents Cricbuzz Live.